Hello, America. It's, there is hyper evidential that science reveals we could use, but the citing of sources is being used to measure and maintain self valued roles with other being and having been communicated when people speak and when they make value treatments. So all this is involved with predicate acts that our World Trade Center attack involved because of the location. Hartford Hospital has an institute of living with the intelligence community. They also have roles with women who claim to be prostitutes, who are involved with people who went to campuses I went to, who have that involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and a Judge Smith and a Judge Killian who speak fake things into records, into cities. A bunch of people on off Central Connecticut State University have roles with the intelligence community that they imply, confess, demonstrated, recorded, are involved with plainclothes police forms, including ones pretending or actually are not, as in other words, prostitutes, but they were implied involved with police forms with state police, like Eric Jensen has roles with men and women that were involved with child abuses, intercities through time, with names on my street, involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield Police, and with uses of corners of streets and of corners of buildings timed with overt criminal enterprises and with unions, families, because of recorded used confession used remotely criminally foreign influence while pretending other are roles with readings of statutes criminally foreign influence, and where there are applications by that in the furtherance of the worst natures of things and of uses of criminal insidiousness nature. As nature demonstrates, I am not a lawyer. We could use how lawyers originally instilled their motivations actual were juxtaposed with a hyperactual, even greater than and more finite. For example, as the breaching method itself, that was uses tactical of the laws here to use remotely intercolonies, intercompanies and countries associated with that. Uses of definitions that couldn't defend themselves and afford counters to criminal insidiousness properly syntactically, where and how we are syntactically manifest. Ebonics, the word ebonics is involved with uses of linguistics experts, criminally foreign influence, for example, where and how each of the sciences are abridged natures of themselves. And there is a certain type of victim / hyper victim manifest with each employment as a ground employment, now tactically ulterior from how nature has employed us as a ground identity voicing simultaneously from where and how we are not, but anyway. In other words, again, this my other speech, I explain this in other videos. We have black people's whites and eyes, exception nature, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, also / hyper simultaneously, further simultaneously. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously / hyper simultaneously. The identity of the hyper simultaneous is also increasingly group values that are also increasingly valued, where we are valued as nature / nature as value simultaneously / hyper simultaneously. In the opposite sequence, nature too, conversely, simultaneously / hyper simultaneously, where and how more and more forever nature is made, that is greater than and more finite than infinity, as an identity as a forever nature, as your own identity as an individual is greater than and more finite than forever nature. As you were already forever nature that was made, you are being made And God willing, for a long time, you will continue to be made. And you could already see you could already discern to an extent the presence of that value, not here, but already here. And of the past, not here, but already here. There are reasons hyper additionally why we have experience as value to ourselves. Why we have value to ourselves. So a whole bunch of names with Hartford Hospital have a whole bunch of direct and indirect ties and roles with predicate acts. That's in Hartford, Connecticut. Also with the names next to their location, they've been planting predicate acts in my street. And they've been abuses of the kids of each family where they have roles with sustained denials and pretended not to realize uses of their identities, where and how they are used remotely originally and still tactically delusions wrought / hyper-tactically delusions wrought too. So each of the species bodies has two eyes, for example, in summary of the past videos relative to this. We're distinctly, non-distinctly, and hyper-simultaneously within an identity we can't make up. That is not our own, but while being our own. And anyway, additionally, ways that are automatically temporary positive, always. But it is showing us the difference between temporary positive and lasting positive, but per its system. For example, we know that the laws of colonization were designed to propagate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Natures like criminal insidiousness, and as roles with predicate acts. Note how a predicate act is capable of showing us a criminal insidiousness nature. So a predicate acts method it could show us that even better. It also shows us the difference between criminal enterprises and the means to discern a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. Even if it is no longer manifest. And even if it never was manifest. To an extent, we know it was, and it was not only was it not charged, it was effectively in other words, a real cause of negative value nature progression action natures like the Breacher method. And all the things that it caused, too. Like crazy laws, a singular thing. But it was blamed on other things, others themselves. While itself was being left out and blamed on other things left, so effectively means to measure and maintain. Complete subjects individually grouped into possession / hyperpossession. Is preaching method employed everyone at every location, area, and state, everywhere the species bodies is. Forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to use their own name, other people's names, and simultaneously the uses of the grounds, words as values, names. Tactical ulterior from how by nature's hypernative system as that which is hyper simultaneous that we can't make up. It has all the species bodies manifest the way they are, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and then further hyper simultaneously. Bound this way, but not. Well, anyway. Its distinct, non-distinct, simultaneous difference is how every identity of volume has a distinct identity of relationship to itself. Every individual of the species, individual body of humanity has been a part of systems, tactical ulterior, from the one that only increasingly communicates tactical ulterior. I mean, as the one inseparable from ourselves anyway. why it's increasingly valuable to discern how modern systems individually grouped and together have stayed self-valued, and that used remotely too. Logic that involves self-valued uses of how our systems are tactile from the one that causes positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, like evolutions, fruits, and gifts, and means, and species out of nowhere, not as criminal insidiousness natures. Any nature of, so they invented a species tomorrow, or brought back to life a species tomorrow. The location they did it from in themselves, individually grouped and together, the logic is still using criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions raw / hypertactically delusions raw quality aspects. In fact, treating nature as criminal insidiousness nature, as identity is nature. And nature is not is a word to be used per its relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. The reason value has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously is tied to where and how the identity of the hypersimultaneous has a scientific value. It also has grouped values that are also increasingly valuable, hyper invisible, but still discernible. The how and why I forget what the English. The predicate is valued to English law to discern the identity of the predicate's value to itself / the subject of the sentence is value to itself distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously / hypersimultaneously. But we have where and how we could discern the hypersimultaneous simultaneously, preemptively, grouped reasons, and altogether blocked out by defenses of syntax and of names uses and of passions, emotions descriptions. They can't defend themselves and afford counters to what most furthers the worst uses of criminal foreign influences and of their bodies, like criminal enterprises, like wrongdoers. These are things associated with the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act and with the topics in the news, where and how they have legal experts being used, where and how also differentially worse or not is how exceptions and exception nature are being and having been used tactically ulterior from how nature uses exception and exception nature in hyper additional ways, and where and how it uses without theory per observation actually honest how it uses a special difference and relativity / hyperrelativity. The identity of hypersimultaneous is the identity of relativity / hyperrelativity, where and how it is connected with all that we could discern and communicate about only by using what is simultaneously recorded. Transposed against what we know has been tactical ulterior from nature's system that is also positive onto itself lasting ways. Oh, these people did this and that. Our identity does the same thing. We know the World Trade Center attack affected our side. As the Saudi side on the wrong. At the same time, our side leading up to the context, in the context too, and since also affected Saudi roles. And the difference of that also because the other nations involved and how they have their extended family members involved, not legitimately. So Mark Violet has a woman that used to live near him where they used to live. Mark, when they were growing up, reported it was a fake house. A Mark Violet, and he's got a mother and father involved with the intelligence community at UConn, at Central Connecticut State University, and at Trinity College, also with names next to the locations, planting evidence as roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not legitimately, where they have also the acting coaches, not legitimately acting coaches involved with unmarked police officers, also involved with switching and forging names, where and how they have roles with falsified police reports as collusions with the crime scenes, further increasingly as collusions with leaders of campuses and of their kids, sickly, distinctly, multi-front uses of the difference of that, where and how people are used to make up and leave things out, where and how they have systems and methods of perception used criminally, foreign influence differentially, worse, and the difference of that too, self-value exploited and increasingly though, where and how the need for state rights to be distinct from the federal government is employed by the breaching method. Self-valued exploited by the breaching method. The needs to have federal rights, victims needing to counter that, exploited by the breaching method. Self-rules with the breaching method exploiting that. Where how manifest when they make treatments syntactically of states' rights. For example, the right to lie. James Comey is one of the ones involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with remote uses of Congress. That can't be countered unless we address how also the other branches of government individually grouped and together have predicate acts methods, also with the exceptions tied to them. There were also timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and conscious uses of insidiousness to the logic and to the natures of people A through Z. For example, regarding the value of voting relative to where and to how. Simultaneously, were all these means to discern originally and still how that was used to pretend to measure and maintain. Collusions with uses of insidious positive treatment to measure and maintain, pretend to not realize. Collusions with predicate acts with facts, criminally foreign influenced uses of all locations, areas, and states. It needed to keep on things blamed on other things, others ourselves. Conveniently having, that's what most furthers the overt criminal enterprises. It employed the nation's their physical differences, our physical differences, which is ours is mixed. And note president/chief. See, neither the Native American voice or the regular citizen's voice is valued as the hyper native voice. Because because of how too, everyone has self-value. Other things, others are themselves, being and having been blamed for everything that breaching method caused and keeps. Why are most Trumpers people who don't have their hometowns for better education and opportunities? The schools are involved with wire crime methods used by the interbranch, where and how they have to hide lie progressions, where and how they are being and haven't been used remotely with all that came before them. After they came through schools that had other things, others ourselves, blamed for things our founders communicated for us to blame on the breaching method. The experts on logic have been tactically delusions wrought and roles with readings of statutes that give them the benefit of the doubt where they're not supposed to have the benefit of the doubt regarding how to determine who's right or not. So they have been pretending that evidences show that George Washington owned slaves, and they have been torturing people and pretending they have delusions if they say that if they say that he was against slavery. For example, because while they're simultaneously leaving out the hyper evidential while pretending not to realize, as there are criminally foreign influence ways to pretend that people are debating evidences properly and looking at, they're leaving out and leaving out the hyper evidential. Fake news is a phrase recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and confirmed, used by news people and by the enemies of the president against him, where and how they say, oh, the president has no proof. Through administrations, the news had roles with World Trade Center predicate acts and faked apparent motivations, also not realized yet because they need to hide them in backgrounds because they're also had roles as collusions with other countries with that, and with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and timed uses of that. So we have experts on each of the sciences, self-valuing them as a certain type of hyper victim / hyper victim. So this is why our schools, if you call in when you catch them doing something, they'll replace what's actually recorded and change the nature of the communications, put fake emails. They have readings of in modern countries, A through Z, including our own country. They pretend they need to pretend that they are appearances of justice when they know they are not appearances of justice. And where that is not true, they simultaneously have delusions relative to where and how they have other communicated for our founders per uses of that. You said you literally can't even read my questions properly. I can read them. Education opportunities. The reason we don't have education opportunities is because they're using the campuses to fabricate audio and video transcripts as collusions with crime scenes and with names from off the campuses, also between the campuses, vertically and horizontally, preemptively from reasons in the past, and, for reasons shown to them needs to come, and actively for grouped reasons. The identities of individuals, how grouped, all the ways grouped, and together they're used remotely, shown needing to hide lies and delusions where integrity is pretended, where and how integrity was to be and is to be discerned, the difference between it and non-integrity, other than how we are being forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to accept it, discerned since founding, that one has learned. See, Larry, you're making up facts and you have delusions and you're calling me a schizophrenic. I'm going by what's actually recorded. I notice that the people that, you can't think because you have mental diagnosis that you think with. In other words, who your doctor is, or if you're a doctor, you're tactically delusions wrought, criminally foreign influence. I caught you roles with proven child abusers, and more then and now recorded, way worse, with the same campuses. There, so you have no premises. You're just making allegations, because you have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders too. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others, also with names next to their location, with the intelligence community, communities, foreign and domestic. This is where they forced Saudis at the same time where the Saudis forced them intercity. A whole bunch of relatives tied to Escaloras have been planting evidences, roles with names with identity theft, frauds on and off campuses, intercities, with names on Elm Streets and Weathersfield and Rocky Hill. Do you know them? Larry, we have black pupils, whites of eyes. Exceptions, exception nature. We have the same color eyes and different color eyes. I do understand how that makes sense. How that was left out with these conversations with the schools regarding slavery. Supposed to speak about the breaching method too, not just about what nature communicates tactically ulterior than the fakes and the people with physical delusions with you there, especially if you're a doctor. So I don't know, you're sick with the spectrum. Whatever you think the spectrum is, Larry, you have roles with drugs and medicines, crimes with those locations, with your physical delusions too, so you may not even know. Do you have a doctor that has you with the spectrum? They have been attaching people to fake conversations. These are people, the social worker that provides you with assistance. No, I don't have a social worker that provides me with assistance. If they're faking that in a database, there are a whole bunch of people with the medical community named Leahy and tied to them, who are also involved with judges and prosecutors planting evidences and fake conversations with me. This is a medical document that is proofs, one of the proofs, and these are people increasingly having been planting predicate acts like around the houses of kids that go to the same schools as their kids, and on all sides of it, because of how the intelligence community is recorded to use criminally foreign influence. They pretend to have conversations about police equipment with them and about legal cases. That's one of the things they did with Wethersfield Police through time, intelligence community intercities. They use corners of buildings and corners of streets. They have corners of streets on a principal child abuser's campus involved with a Peruta family and with others involved with the confessions of a Robert Rodriguez. I recorded involved with child abuses with a principal child abuser and with a police chief Cintron in 1 years ago involved with the same house, Cololo, also involved with the Inspector Mike and Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron and his family members, also with further uses of wire crime acts and methods with Wethersfield Police, roles with their Facebook pages, used criminally foreign influence readings, the statutes left out, how they hid their roles of wire crimes, mail crimes. Joshua Julian, involved with people at UConn with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with foreign and domestic military, medical corruption. So, Larry, I don't know why you would obstruct justice when the conversation is about actual acts, predicate acts that were timed roles with the principal child abuser. WTNH, they fabricated, they had the intelligence community, retired and standing, had them fabricate emails to change the conversation, to hide what was recorded over the phones. They've been fabricating audio and video transcripts with Wethersfield police people with Whiting forensics through time recorded predicate acts with their patients and criminals before they got caught, and since under the guise of corrections to keep them their mouth shut, and with people online pretending others have delusions and then making up and changing what they said and pretending if you're Larry, one of the ones that died to Ray Cololo, you should fear God for being your family's roles with the intelligence community and the names associated with you and the conjunctions to Route 3. Larry. I spoke about child abuse acts and principal child abuse, and you're telling me how it makes sense. I'm going to get that. That's recorded. And that was also hid by people like you. That was force sustained by people like you, pretending they don't understand what people say. And then changing what they say as collusions, as identity theft, frauds, roles, slanders, roles. The news did the same thing. They've been planting predicate acts between campuses too. Whiting Forensics, increasingly since I was a kid, has roles with state police families. They have been planting evidences at crime scenes, roles with untimely deaths brought up the principal child abusers campus. They have the corners of the streets on the principal child abusers campus involved with news stories. Also at other corners of streets, like on Church Street and Old Weathersfield, involved with drugs and medicines crimes with you, Larry, and with your delusions. Also a Brian Silver and some courts and a whole bunch of names in the Britain Superior Court, men and women are involved with wire crimes with an O'Brien family and with a Rick C.M. Faglione with wire crimes with Hartford Police, Weathersfield Police. The intelligence community retired and standing with Central Connecticut State University, involved with principals with child abusers. And as the proven principal child abusers campus involved with other principal with ties to them and their family members, where and how they get them to hide and make up facts and pretend sensibilities and motivations too, because the foreign are involved with their motivations. That's also recorded. You're making up lies again, Larry. You're obstructing justice. Larry, you're recorded obstructing justice. Larry, you're lying about the conversations I have with my family. I've been waiting to have conversations with my family. I didn't have conversations with them about things with this since I was a kid. They pretend the kids' families and themselves have conversations with themselves that never were. They use methods by asking them about things they have no clues about, and they make exceptions. They exploit tricks with facts, where and how they have been also switching names, officers, and making confessions the way they do with that. They've been leaking Weathersfield Police, how they have roles with the military with you, Larry, too, whether you know it or not. Also, you guys get people to fight, and then you speak about mental health, and people are going to say, oh, well, we're not expert. So you have experts attaching kids and their family members. And their family members. The Hartford Hospital attached me to fake conversations about legal cases, also with as roles with WFSB before they did that, and since. And they have roles, the same ones did that, have roles with the federal criminals in those cases, and in the relatives cases, like 2006 district court case. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, was one of the co-defendants with Thaddeus Grabowski, involved on Fox Connecticut News with him right before that, with predicate acts and with the buildings and locations and names next to it, as ones involved with the principal child abuser, and between campuses as roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, including with the Sandy Hook, further involved with predicate acts with child offenders with the campuses, including medical ones with you, Larry. I asked Hartford Hospital to respond to me in paper many times. They've been refusing to respond to me. I had to get someone else to get this papers for me, because that's how they force people to speak as a group and not get a response to where and how they put me to fake words in conversation, fake ties to other people, fake nature, ties to other people all through time. Whole bunch of people with named Mendez, involved with the name Spada, involved with the wire crimes of Weathersfield Police, and their confessions regarding their last confession over the phone was regarding the name Cololo, and they didn't give the whole name. And they have a Red Cololo on here, involved with them in real life with the wire crime acts, regardless of who it is on there too. And the difference of that is also involved with the minds of the prosecutors and judges, criminally foreign influence. They should say sorry to Barack Obama, to Donald Trump, and to Joe Biden, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously too, because they have all those names in the country with their names here, jumping into people's conversations with you, Larry, stacking names of people that don't know me. And if you're a Larry, that's the one involved with the Joe DeMauro and the Ray Claw. That's also with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with state police families and families all along Route 3 involved with relative federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, in singular uses of their multiple uses of it. So Larry, Judge Napolitano, for example, this Larry's on here making things up and changing what I say. Just why they go, the president says fake news, and they saw the president use no premises, no evidence. If the president brings out the evidence and speaks about it, the other countries hear what he's saying, and they're grouped fakes too. These are all the countries in the news share roles with Connecticut campuses. The word sound was used by a Japanese kid as one of the ones involved with Central Connecticut State University and New Britain, Connecticut, intercities and interstates as collusions with World Trade Center predicate acts, with the name on the World Trade Center and on the Ninth Circuit Court next to it, also involved with obstruction of justice and other natures of federal crimes with you, Larry. I'm not even pleased for them. Their difference is not the lawyers too. The lawyers have been planting evidences with all in fake motives with the victims, and too, and their courts appointed advocates, uses of the hallways of the courts. Larry's you're recorded involved with the crime method used on a mass scale, where they get people to yell and fight about details, where people want details left out, where they see that the protraction of the conversation is a correlation nature that's too real for people, and where and how your definitions of real are also tactically delusions wrought where they are not criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality, aspects of nature, and as collusions with people. I mean, God help you if you have a medical degree too. Larry, I know I need help. I asked many times to get a name on paper. Connecticut Interbranch has been switching and forging names and sticking fake things in conversation. I caught them attaching me and everyone around me to fake words with each other since I was a kid. That's one of the hyper-evidential things that I need to show as a teacher. So it's important that you get them on paper, because Rocky Hill campuses also did this with the names involved with more child abusers, and this name Luigi Guerrero. I never had a word of conversation with, made it look like it, try to make a fake exception appearing per his roles with intelligence at Quinnipiac. I mean, not Quinnipiac. Bryant University. Do you know what Luigi Guerrero or John Lyon? Also with the Zano family. So, Larry, why are you making up things about me? What's your last name too, Larry? You have one of those accounts. You guys keep putting the intelligence community is recorded involved. This is with criminally foreign influenced uses of each of the departments at Central Connecticut State University and all the campuses. There's also neighbors, men and women associated with stop making excuses for what, Larry? Why are you making things up? You're making excuses, and you're planting. I'm not doing that. You're involved with extortion right now too. You're involved with seriously bad things. So Larry is involved, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with trying to make people mad, and rightfully making them mad, and lying about the difference when they stay calm and when they get mad too, and the difference between that too, while tactically delusions wrought, while Larry has roles with drugs and medicines, crimes, families, involved with databases, criminally foreign influence, also as computer families, that also as police forms. They have juxtaposed timed roles with unions, families, on-off, town line drive locations, and as their roles with an Abruzzi family with people before I had his class and after I had his class, increasingly recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and other agencies on and off Central Connecticut State University, involved with people like Larry making things up on the internet and fake conversations with me in backgrounds and through the mail. A Leahy family pretended conversations with me through the mail and about police equipment and legal cases where they have roles with federal criminals in the cases and associated with them and their family members, like a Heather Hansen and a Joe DeMauro and a Ray Clow that were put in the summer school class with me, not on the middle school campus. That middle school campus and spots next to it, names next to it, have been planting sequence shifts, identity thefts, and frauds with Middletown forensics locations names through time, all along Route 3 and other conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices. Also, this Larry has roles with that and with feds, and the difference between that. There are foreign and domestic military families with the names Violet along Elm Street since they were kids, and Oliveri, who repeat the names of others because they have roles stacking predicate acts with facts into databases, and they have abused. They lie to the teachers of the kids, and the difference between the teachers and the kids doing it. They're keeping everyone needing to hide details made up and stuff and the motivations of it. So they're forcing everyone to use each other's names. So and Eric Oliveri has roles with predicate acts against my teacher and against me multi-front. If they want to make an opinion, they need to do it on paper. If they want to pretend other, they don't realize that recorded, because that's what's recorded. That conversations with my family members, they've been telling them fake ties to me since I was a kid. I drive a car. What are you talking about? You can't leave your house alone. What are you talking about? Larry, also there are further leaders of the kids you're involved with abuses of, because you have them scared to say anything. Because you have this, because of the way you have the state police involved with medical corruption with you, with all sides of my house. There are a Domain family is one of the ones also. I never saw them on my street, but they're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have conversations with a teacher of mine, criminally foreign influence, when I was in class with them when I was a sophomore, with people who spied on me in my freshman year, and then people that hung around with my people I didn't hang around with one name's near me, and then made it look like we were a group together, our friends together. Made all exceptions and mixed with fake ones. Demonstration, the same thing. Larry. Also, they broke my car, the people involved with this with you. So what kind of a doctor are you, Larry? Besides roles with obstruction of justice against strangers, God help me if you're one of the ones who walk by and pretend to take a picture of me and know me, or any of the other exceptions, Larry. You're involved with obstruction of justice with child offenders and with people with criminally foreign influence uses of the Facebook pages of judges and of Wethersfield Police Facebook page. Mark Violet also has roles with KKK theme, Confederate flag theme, and black themed military police with Wethersfield Police, with a Joshua Schumack and his mother involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids with you. Also, a Leahy family pretended conversations with me through the mail. And they. So, please YouTube too. Note this guy making up things about me, blaming me for what he does. That's one of the ways. They have all kinds of sequence shifts within as people from Connecticut, intercities and interstates, who also have roles on off the Ninth Circuit Court with post-dated documents from inside the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers, right before the attack, leading up to it and since. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. A Keene family, Dan Keene, and his parents have roles with the intelligence community on off, and their neighbors like Faenza's and people near there like a Wethersfield Pizza, increasingly with names involved with Yukon names, for example, with Wethersfield Pizza involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield Police, and a Stephen Stocko involved with predicate acts on Central Connecticut State University with Maria Vizzino, reportedly Maria Stocko now, and other boyfriends of hers, and her neighbors involved with identity thefts and frauds and slanders. Also, a whole bunch of people tied to it, confessed, involved with the Dillon family, as the ones on my street from other parts of the town who've been hiding live progressions, increasingly with the ones with the intelligence community, with wire crimes when they were kids of mixed natures at the same time, the difference of that used. So we need to get them on paper. Judge Napolitano and this Larry, we need these people with pretending others to perceive mental deficiencies in others who are doing that to obstruct justice, with child abusers involved with identity theft, frauds, and slanders in the form of federal evidences crimes, including the news planting evidences as collusion with crime scenes before it happens, during it, and since. A whole bunch of rules means to use them remotely too. And it's nothing personal. They lie about what they believe the motivations of themselves and others are. So 9/11, to understand what happened in 9/11, you have to observe the predicate, the post-dated documents that had been post-dated to appear insidiously from inside the Ninth Circuit Court, which was proven after the 9/11 attack. But right before and in the 9/11 context, the judges had been shown post-dated from legal papers that had been timely stamped and handed into the Ninth Circuit Court in Manhattan before the World Trade Center attack, and untimely. They post-dated them from inside the Ninth Circuit Court, where and how the intelligence community is involved. Former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin, his lawyer, Robert Chevalier. The location of his office is also with a whole bunch of people tied to Central Connecticut State University involved with predicate acts there, and on off the Harry Beecher Stowe house / Mark Twain house / S, with them together there. And all along, that's around not far from the state capitol. On off the state capitol, they have roles with investigators, how used remotely since founding, pretending others simultaneously too. And how they got away with that, even though it's others recorded. We're going to examine here. So, period, this Larry has been planting evidences. Been obstructing justice with people involved with that did that in the past with proven child offenders, and the medical community had roles with their kids with it. They attached me to they attached the kids, including kids that when I was a kid, they attached me to fake ties to doctors too. Increasingly, people involved with the medical community, with the Cololo families, have roles with, including military medical, associated with DeMorrow's family member. DeMorrow said that they involved too with this. That principal from Highcrest School was proven involved with upskirt pictures. There are still more of them involved with that then and now on and off campus, and other natures of the kids' pictures used. But also they have roles with untimely deaths, which brought up the campus to me. And the news put those fake lies to hide what I record them doing. So Larry, you're just pretending passions and emotions as collusions with WFSB. NBC Connecticut News made fake emails with the FBI, Weathersfield Police, and state police also timed collusions with predicate acts methods together, with Whiting forensics through time with patients and criminals associated with them. The witness protection program is also involved in increasingly a number of ways. With the names involved with that, with the corners of the streets near me on Griswold Street, that also a Violet family sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm roles having been spied on me. And then sequence shifts, because they're lying about their motivations for that, because that's used remotely. They have military kids involved, in other words, planting fake motivations preemptively. They have DMV motor vehicle kids planting fake motivations preemptively because already they were used criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, / hypercriminally foreign influence, because that's also needing to hide screen itself. That's that which is the breaching method, for example, to discern that which is hypercriminally foreign influence. That breaching method which applied black-white mean other than it means. See black pupils, see whites of eyes. See, president / chief. So the courts have been using words like allegations, criminally foreign influence, and they recorded themselves doing that, where hyper evidential shows other recorded than they've been pretending recorded. They have been using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie, differentially as the state's worse and as the federal worse, because of remote uses of collusion, where and how they have appearances of justice pretended as modern countries A through Z, effectively used to measure and maintain them tactically delusions raw, sickly distinctly from yourself, Larry, and the difference of that self-value, because you're pretending to be integrity with nonsense, with fake premises and other people's reporting. And the difference of that, because the interbranch has been putting fake evidences, timed roles with that, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not just roles with the witness protection program, with the names on off the state judicial branch offices. And I've been trying to keep things private, like names like a Dan Keene and his family, and the location there, like with the Fienzas, their neighbors in Weathersfield near the state judicial branch office, and other neighbors there have roles with predicate acts. Also with the military involved, like an Oliveira family. Apparently they had them syntactically repeat, or had someone try to film too, probably. When he tried to open a bottle of beer, I wasn't drinking beer with them, near the Keene house. They're trying to always make it look like I'm using beer and things like that. In other words, they're trying to plant fake things that have roles with criminally foreign influence use of databases and teachers that they lied to. Has something to do with their roles with Elm Streets in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, with a whole bunch of other countries, and with mobile gas stations. Eric Oliveira recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, as other people associated with him before that. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed his family involved with mobile gas stations with them, with predicate acts with their teachers behind my back, and other things associated with it, like their uses of corners of streets and of buildings, and of perception. In other words, for identity theft, fraud instances, sequence shifts, fake, slanders against people. In other words, these are also houses. These are also owners of the buildings next to Fox Connecticut News. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed as names involved with names on off Two Rod Highway. Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane have been involved with predicate acts with the names next to the state judicial branch offices, like Fienza. They also have roles with people on off those streets, with their families too, and with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and the witness protection program involved with them. Also with a Joshua Julian, and people and names on my street, like a Dillon family, involved with predicate acts on all sides of my street and in the area, and their roles with the domain families, confessions and demonstrations of abuses of the kids, of the families on the street were reliant upon everyone speaking what everyone else heard, including the interbranch, their value of that. They're fake. It's nothing personal. You need to get them on paper, one name and sequence. These are people with a whole bunch of in other words, you guys are forcing me, extorted time and positions too, because I have to get this done because you guys still haven't responded for what I caught you doing between the campuses, and you still haven't responded for the principal's confessions because you have more involved with it then and now, and you're trying to hide that by using the same tricks I caught you using to force such. No, so that's why it's important to understand why and how you guys are the ones bringing up Mr. Murphy's name. And Aaron Murphy is one of the ones involved with some prosecutors and judges with drugs and medicines, crimes with the kids, wire crimes with the kids, fake motivations with the kids, also with the military differentially and others, on and off the spots next to Central Connecticut State University, increasingly with people with the names of O'Brien, has something to do with their roles with Elm Streets, Rocky Hill, and Wethersfield. One of the people with the names Bobby and Bobby Jean recorded, confessed, administrated, confirmed. She has roles with criminally foreign influenced uses of investigations of investigators and to an extent discernible, but she needs to pretend others simultaneously, and she's being coached to. Also has as their roles with shipping locations like UPS, Beauty Enterprises, post office, locations next to it. What they're making me go the hard way to get a name, because that's one of the things you guys use, the locations commonly. Whiting Forensics increasingly has roles with confessions and demonstrations and people pretending other tied to their roles with names next to those locations, further then and now involved with abuses of children. The same families timed uses of elderly homes, their position with elderly homes sick. Have you seen the VA, how it is manifest the way? New York City is manifest that way, /S, that the breaching method only allowed to be manifest. It designed the suburbs before our founders were born. The spot with the there was no law before it. The spot with Webb House, they changed the name a couple times, and their narratives tied to that. Also to they put up the sign of Morgan Circle. That's people involved with the intelligence community, with World Trade Center, with Hartford Insurance Companies, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, private and public schools. And the difference, the kids come on the other clean campus and they put fake things in databases, repeat fake things, how they have names like that. I never had a conversation with the socials. In other words, Jennifer Social. I don't know what her name was. I forgot what her name was. She was brought up to me in confessions and demonstrations by one of the Scalera family members, involved with people also repeated confessions, their roles with the corner of Knott Street and Walker Hill, involved with the intelligence community with identity thefts and fraud, slander, fake ties and fake natures of ties to everyone, and fake motivations planted, like with Larry. Yeah, make sure you inform the FBI, Larry, because they have wire crimes with you. Crackpot. Fear God. More credible threats of violence and sexual and medical abuses of the kids are credible. Make sure you give me a fucking name, you motherfucker. Make sure you get those fucking judges on one paper, one name and sequence with that detective Samuda, that scumbag, involved also with a whole bunch of girls with the intelligence community abused since they were kids. Now they're women involved with the same men and women, still men and women abusing others' kids because they're fake integrity. They should fear God for what they've been doing on off Church Street in Old Wethersfield and get my name out of their sick minds. With you, Larry. You know those people? You're going to jail. Make sure you say sorry too. When you call up the police too, make sure they fight. You do see Judge Napolitano. Someone told Judge Napolitano, I got this Larry, whole bunch of people on Facebook, not just him, whole bunch of people that have been typing on my comments have roles with the names around me recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, being coached to make things up where there are simultaneously victims. I'm trying to treat them as victims / hyper victims. You guys trying to get involved with everyone. You guys, because you guys attach me to fake yelling and fake calmness too. You guys lie about the simultaneous. Online, at locations with the news, and at crime scenes. And the locations is because the hypercrime scene. Larry, a number of police like you pretend that you don't realize that you're criminally foreign influence obstructing justice. You have a principal being child abuser involved with you. You're not just that dumb. You have delusions too. You know that. You should fear God. Make sure you get me a response. I promise you, I've recorded. There's proofs that there's more hurt coming on the kids of the campuses. Make sure you find out what I'm talking about, Larry. You fake cop, you dirty son of a bitch. Watch what I'm going to reveal you as. You make sure, because you're obligated by law. You get me a goddamn name. You have them pick one name in sequence, too. Wethersfield police switch names and forge names here in sequences. And with the Hartford courts and the Brighton courts, district court people involved with West Hartford locations criminally, Wethersfield locations criminally. Make sure. Larry, I don't owe answering you a goddamn thing. You owe me. You're the one who came up here and obstructed justice and made things up. You're the one who did that, not me. I tell the truth, you crackpot. And you should fear God for having a badge now. You should fear God if you're a doctor even further. Make sure you get a response for the courts and for the police forms that have been preventing. They forced to sustain too with these roles with you guys, planting fake evidences, and make sure they say sorry for what they've been telling the they recorded telling the neighbors on all sides of my house with the Dillon family and with others on all sides of CCSU, training them to plant evidences with the interbranch. Otherwise, they're going to hurt their families. You know how they're going to hurt them? Because you're bullshitters. Yeah, mandated law. I asked you, and I asked other people for help. I can't get a goddamn name on paper. You're going to get it on paper, Larry. Let's see, Larry. Go try it. Make sure right now. Make sure I get a response, because I could not get a response. That's part of the evidence. I cannot get help, Larry. And you're pretending you're help because you're a fake punk at the same time. Oh, I was trying to get him help. You're not trying to get me help, you fake punk. You make sure I get a name and get them on paper. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with them and with other people, and about the World Trade Center and the people on off these campuses involved, like Hartford Hospital with this Leahy family, Violet family. People involved with the community center in Wethersfield, increasingly involved with, they know my names, I don't know their name. They're planting evidences, involved with drugs and medicine crimes through the people supposed to be up against it. Not legitimately with investigators using criminally foreign influence. That has something to do with a whole bunch of people recording, confessed, demonstrated, increasingly a former Mayor Gold and other mayors and their families and ties to them have roles with Whiting Forensics and with on off the state education building and the locations next to it. On off Central Connecticut State University has roles with positions exploited intercities. We're in how we have fake integrity because everyone got child abuse coming through campuses that taught you guys how to think wrong. And worse, because they measured and maintained who's going to use correlation proper by our actual means when we're little kids. We have Native Americans' rights that were sickly distinctly hurt from the colonists' rights, sickly distinctly hurt from the early states' rights, sickly distinctly hurt from our own, but also sickly non-distinctly. And that's self-value, and little kids can discern it. And the identities involved with it preemptively grouped and together. See, where everyone speaks to each other. So, Larry, make sure you go right now because you're involved with obstructing justice with child abusers already proven, sustained by punks like you online, changing and faking with evidences with the interbranch and their family members. Recorded a whole bunch of other countries involved with those same names. A police chief, Centron, 1 year ago, involved with the same house. So make sure you get me a response real fast. So make sure you get me a response because I'm gonna hang up this conversation now because you're a bullshitter, Larry, and you're an obstruction of justice role with pedophiles and with medical offenders of kids, attaching little kids to fake conversation with doctors, and you hid this from the parents. They've been using the right to lie for the reasons that Fox News did good reporting on, but they're doing bad reporting where they're hiding how they've been using that as a guise to lie. In other words, they've been using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. That's not their agenda. You guys see, I've recorded sick people with the kids, not just because of their treatments of transsexuals going into the locker room with the girls and the difference of that. So Larry is on the internet forever. I don't know who this person is, but he's one of the ones involved with the police chief Centron and with the Alehi family that pretended conversations with me about legal cases with members involved with them, and their family members involved with them with criminally foreign influence uses of databases, fake conversations, fake ties to people, fake, including when they're forced to evaluate. They're in the place with us. We have our conversation with us. They put us in quotations though. They fabricate audio and video transcripts. A whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College and other campuses recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed also drugs and medicines crimes with the FBI and with the military police, also with this Leahy family and with the campuses next to Hartford Hospital, little kids' campuses too. You have the kids' inclusion. You have the kids pretending passions and emotions for the adults. You have the kids that work for the courts recorded criminally foreign influence. Let them testify. You should fear God right now, Larry, because they have the kid they have the kids of the Leahy family further involved with child offenders. Make sure they get on paper and get my name out of their sick faces. Get that little kids out of the game with their parents. They got their kids and their parents playing games, pretending to know me. Make sure they get that off with you. Make sure you get on paper, Larry, playing games with the kids. And the fake news you're using for information. You're planting evidences with WFSB, WTNH, and then Fox Connecticut News. Fear God, because it's worse. Now, there are walls with the locations next to them, too. Yeah, fear God, because there are more recorded child abusers that you wouldn't let me talk about because you're coming on here the way you did. So you're obstructing justice. Fear God.